So, what if you could take the core strategic thinking from the world's absolute best business schools and distill it all into one powerful 5-minute masterclass? Well, that's exactly what we're about to do. Let's dive right into the playbook for modern leadership. Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll talk about why the old strategies just aren't working anymore. Then, we're going to build the new playbook, piece by piece, borrowing the best ideas from INSEAD, Harvard, and MIT. And finally, we'll put it all together into one cohesive, integrated model. All right, let's set the stage here. The world of business, the rules of the game have totally changed. The pace of everything is so fast now that the strategic playbooks that worked perfectly even just a decade ago, they just don't cut it anymore. And that brings up a really important question. Why is it so hard to be a leader right now? Why are the challenges so unprecedented? The truth is, it's not that leaders have gotten less capable. It's that the entire environment, the very ground beneath their feet, has fundamentally shifted. You've probably heard this acronym before, VUCA. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And look, this isn't just some corporate buzzword. It's the very reason that all our traditional ways of planning and forecasting are falling short. You simply cannot predict your way out of a VUCA world. So what's the answer? Well, it's a new playbook built on 3 core pillars, drawing from the best in the world. From INSEAD, we got our first pillar, leadership. From Harvard, our second, competitive strategy. And from MIT, our third, foresight. This combination, this is our new foundation. Okay, let's dig into that first pillar, the INSEAD approach to leading in this chaotic world. This is all about leadership psychology. It's about having the right mindset and the right tools for a future that is anything but certain. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The big mindset shift INSEAD teaches is this. You stop trying to predict the future. Instead, you build an organization that can adapt and thrive in whichever future actually shows up. The goal isn't prediction anymore. It's all about preparation. So, how do you actually do that? You shift from old school forecasting to something called scenario planning. So instead of looking at the past and trying to guess the one right answer for the future, you imagine several different plausible futures. Then you stress test your strategy against all of them. The goal is to find a robust strategy that works pretty well no matter what happens. Okay, we've got the mindset down. Now for pillar number 2, the Harvard approach to building a real competitive advantage. Here, we're shifting gears from leadership psychology to the hard economics of creating a sustainable, winning edge in the market. And the centerpiece of the Harvard way of thinking is this brilliant tool called the value stick. It's a surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful way to map out where value is being created and, just as importantly, where it's being destroyed across your entire business. Let's walk through it real quick. At the very top, you have willingness to pay. That's the absolute most a customer would ever shell out for what you have. Then there's the price you actually set. Below that is your cost, and at the very bottom is willingness to sell, the minimum your suppliers or employees will accept. Now, the real strategic geniuses, they learn how to play with all 4 of these levers to create a bigger gap, more value than anyone else. Now, in our digital world, Harvard says there's one competitive advantage that crushes almost everything else: network effects. You know this one. It's when a product or service gets more valuable the more people use it. Think about a social media platform. This creates a powerful, self-reinforcing flywheel that once it gets spinning is almost impossible for competitors to stop. And that idea of network effects leads us perfectly into our third and final pillar, the MIT approach to winning the digital future. This is all about looking ahead, about anticipating and actually harnessing the power of technological disruption before it disrupts you. And MIT really doesn't pull any punches here. They're saying the change we're living through right now is as big as the Industrial Revolution. The only difference is it's happening in a few decades, not over centuries. Just letting that sink in, it shows you how urgent this all is. So a huge piece of this is understanding platform strategy, which has its own kind of crazy set of rules. You've got to solve the chicken and egg problem to get both buyers and sellers to show up. You have to deal with multi-homing. That's when your users are also on your competitor's app. You have to decide between being highly curated or wide open, and you have to watch out for platform envelopment, which is just a fancy way of saying a giant company decides to enter your space. To get ahead of these shifts, MIT gives us a fantastic tool called the STEEP framework. It's a disciplined way to scan the horizon across 5 key areas: social, technological, economic, environmental, and political. This is how you spot those faint, weak signals today that will become the massive disruptions of tomorrow. So we have our 3 pillars: INSEAD, Harvard, MIT. But here's the secret sauce. The real power isn't in using them one by one. The final, most important step is to weave them all together into a single, integrated way of leading. And this is where it all clicks into place. The goal isn't to become an expert in just one of these frameworks. It's to become a leader who can integrate all 3. You need the leadership psychology from INSEAD, the competitive architecture from Harvard, and the environmental intelligence from MIT, all working together. So what does this integrated model actually look like? Well, we can call it the Integrated Strategic Leadership Framework, or ISLF. Think of it like building a skyscraper. The foundation is your leadership psychology. The structure, the architecture of the building, is your competitive strategy. And the penthouse, with the view of the entire horizon, that's your environmental intelligence. And you know what's truly amazing? It's seeing where these 3 giants, all working independently, came to the exact same conclusions. They all agree. Execution is what matters most. Culture will always trump strategy. Data is no longer just data, it's a core strategic asset. And the single most important investment you can ever make is in leadership. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The leader who's going to win the next era is someone who has it all. The hardcore analytical discipline of Harvard, the courage to act when things are uncertain from INSEAD, and the forward-looking wisdom to build something truly lasting, like they teach at MIT. So I'll leave you with this one critical question to think about. When you look at your own team or your own company, are you building a strategy for the predictable world of yesterday, or are you building a resilient strategy that's ready for the multiple, uncertain futures that are headed our way?